Imagine for a moment that the veil of time was lifted, and instead of waking up in the comfort of your modern bed, you found yourself in the heart of a lost civilization. The sun rises not over skyscrapers and cities of glass, but over towering stone temples, monuments carved with divine precision, and vast marketplaces filled with the fragrance of herbs, spices, and offerings. The air feels denser, heavier, not with pollution, but with the spiritual presence of a people who saw life not merely as survival, but as a dance between the mortal and the divine. Every morning is greeted not with alarm clocks, but with the sound of horns, drums, or chants echoing from sacred altars, calling the people into alignment with the cycles of the sun and stars. The ground beneath your feet is not asphalt, but carefully arranged stone roads, smoothed by centuries of footsteps, connecting pyramids, observatories, and palaces that seem to breathe with ancient life. Here, everything is infused with purpose. The farmers who till the soil believe they are feeding not only the community, but also the gods who watch over their harvest. The artisans who carve into stone and gold do not see themselves as mere craftsmen, but as co-creators in the divine order, their work meant to endure for millennia as messages to future generations. The rulers are not seen as ordinary men, but as divine intermediaries chosen by celestial order, carrying the weight of both governance and spiritual balance. If you lived in this time, your daily existence would be tied not only to your survival, but also to rituals, seasons, and cosmic signs. The lost civilizations lived with a rhythm that modern humans have forgotten, a rhythm where the rising of Sirius, the flooding of rivers, or the alignment of constellations dictated the very heartbeat of society. As you walked among them, you would notice a sense of sacred reverence in every action. A cup of water is not simply drunk, it is first lifted in gratitude to the heavens. A piece of bread is not simply eaten, it is broken with acknowledgement of the divine cycle of seed, harvest, and renewal. To live in this era is to live with a sense of connection far greater than oneself. You would not see yourself as a disconnected individual, but as a living fragment of a grand cosmic design. Every stone in the temples, every carving on the walls, every drumbeat at night was a reminder that existence was sacred and fleeting, and yet eternal in the memory of the gods. And yet, within the beauty of this civilization, there is also a mystery. You would hear whispers of knowledge that stretches beyond what modern minds comprehend. Mathematics inscribed in stone, astronomical wisdom precise beyond our telescopes, energy systems that seem more advanced than our electricity. You would live in a paradox, a world that seems primitive by its tools, but advanced by its wisdom, a place where the unseen was valued more than the seen. To live in such an era is to exist in awe, to feel the presence of something humanity has lost the direct, tangible sense of the sacred woven into every breath. If you were to truly live among them, your day would unfold in rhythms, both ordinary and extraordinary. The morning would begin with the community gathering at the river, not only to wash, but to honor the water as a living being. Children would be taught not in classrooms, with books, but in open courtyards, surrounded by elders who told stories of creation, battles of gods and men, and wisdom that carried moral weight for survival. Learning was not about memorization, but about embodying knowledge. Knowing when to plant, how to read the stars, how to heal with herbs, and how to remain in balance with the spirit world. You might find yourself in a bustling market filled with vibrant colors and scents. Merchants display fabrics dyed in natural pigments, baskets woven with sacred patterns, and food prepared with recipes handed down from generations. Trade is not driven by greed, but by an understanding that balance must be kept, for imbalance leads to famine, war, or divine displeasure. Unlike modern cities that drown in noise and isolation, here the community feels alive. People know one another's families, share in one another's joys and sorrows, and live with a sense of unity often absent in modern existence. As the day progresses, rituals become central. At midday, priests ascend the temple steps, carrying incense that fills the air with a sweet yet heavy aroma. You, as a participant, would feel the ground tremble as drums beat in synchronization with the heartbeat of the people. Rituals were not optional. They were the anchor of existence. To live without ritual in such an era would be to drift without meaning. You might witness sacrifices, not always of life but of food, flowers, or art, symbolic offerings to maintain harmony between heaven and earth. Every gesture carried a significance deeper than its surface meaning. In the evenings, the civilization comes alive in different ways. The people gather under starlit skies, their eyes tracing constellations mapped thousands of years before. Stories are told, but these are not mere entertainments. They are transmissions of wisdom, of survival, of divine order. Music fills the air, with flutes and drums resonating into the night, reminding every soul that life itself is rhythm and vibration. If you lived here, you would begin to feel that modern distractions, screens, machines, endless noise, pale compared to the simplicity and grandeur of a night under the stars, surrounded by people who see the cosmos not as far away but as family. Yet, beneath the beauty of daily life lies the weight of responsibility. You would live with the constant awareness that the gods must be honored, the cycles must be respected, and the balance must not be broken. Illness, famine, or misfortune were not seen as random events, but as signals that harmony had been disrupted. Life was beautiful but fragile, sacred but demanding. To live in this era meant that you could not simply drift. You had to participate in the cosmic order or risk falling out of alignment with the very forces that sustained existence. If you lived in this lost civilization, one of the most striking differences would be the knowledge you would encounter. The ancients held wisdom that, to modern eyes, feels impossible. Imagine seeing pyramids rise before you, not with cranes and machines, but with techniques lost to time, each stone placed with a precision that baffles even today's engineers. You would watch mathematicians and astronomers trace the heavens with such accuracy that they could predict eclipses centuries in advance, building entire calendars aligned not only with the sun, but with cycles beyond ordinary vision. Knowledge was not stored in digital clouds, but carved into stone, sung in chants, and passed from master to apprentice with reverence. You might find yourself standing inside a temple that hums with strange energy, its walls covered in hieroglyphs or symbols that speak not only to the mind but to the soul. Priests and priestesses, dressed in flowing garments, might teach you that sound itself can heal, that stones can store memory, that dreams are gateways into realms where divine messages are received. They would show you that the body is not a machine, but a temple connected to the earth, the stars, and the unseen world of spirits. The ancients lived not in separation, but in union. Their science infused with spirituality, their spirituality grounded in science. But knowledge was not given to everyone. To live in such an era meant you would encounter mystery schools, hidden societies, where only the initiated could access the deepest truths. You might undergo rituals of silence, fasting, or trial before being allowed to learn the sacred arts. This knowledge was power, and power required responsibility. You would realize that living in such a time was not only about survival, but about constant transformation. Every challenge, every ritual, every mystery was designed to strip away ignorance and awaken deeper awareness. Yet, with knowledge came danger. The rulers of these civilizations often guarded secrets with intensity, for to misuse divine wisdom could mean disaster for entire nations. Wars were fought not only for land and resources, but for sacred knowledge. Control of the stars, of the rivers, of the invisible energies believed to flow through the earth. To live in this world meant walking in a delicate balance between awe and fear, between illumination and destruction. You would understand that knowledge was not cheap and wisdom was not free. It demanded sacrifice, discipline, and purity of heart. And yet, as history shows, even the greatest civilizations fall. If you lived in their time, you might not see the end immediately. It would begin subtly: shifts in the weather, rivers drying, leaders growing corrupt, rituals losing their meaning as people drift toward greed or forgetfulness. You might watch as the same temples that once rang with sacred chants fall silent, their stones eroded by neglect, their symbols misinterpreted by future generations. To live in such an era would be to taste both the glory and the tragedy of human existence, that even wisdom and grandeur cannot escape the cycles of rise and decline. Imagine standing on the steps of a once great temple as foreign invaders approach, their weapons unfamiliar, their languages strange, their intent not to honor, but to conquer. You would feel the terror of knowing that centuries of wisdom could vanish in flames, that sacred scrolls could be destroyed, that knowledge preserved through generations could be lost in a single act of violence. You would see the gods once worshipped fade into myth, their names forgotten, their temples buried beneath earth and sand. For the people living in those final days, the loss would not be history. It would be heartbreak, confusion, and despair. And yet, even as civilizations fall, they leave echoes. If you lived in that era, you would not know that thousands of years later, people would stand in awe of your world. Tourists would travel across oceans to see the pyramids you once worshipped at. Scholars would dig up the ruins of your city, piecing together fragments of your language, your rituals, your art. Mystics would meditate on your wisdom, sensing that what was lost still lingers in spirit. To live in a lost civilization's era means that your life, though forgotten by names and dates, would echo through eternity. What if you lived in the lost civilization's era? You would experience beauty and burden, wisdom and fragility, reverence and fear. You would walk in a world where the sacred and the ordinary were inseparable, where every action resonated with divine meaning. And when the civilization eventually fell, you would carry within you the memory of its glory, a memory that perhaps lives in all of us still, in dreams, in instincts, in the unexplained pull we feel when standing before ancient ruins. Perhaps to imagine living in a lost civilization is not only to look backward, but to realize that their wisdom calls to us even now, urging us to remember what it means to live in harmony with the divine, the earth, and one another.